In recent years, information about various natural disasters has appeared more and more often. All over the world, there are cataclysmic events that should make us begin to seriously think about the future of our planet. Hi everyone, and today we will tell you about some landmark natural phenomenon that have affected the lives of millions of people. Summoning a massive flood on the islands of Samoa on February 11th, the tropical cyclone Gita collapsed on the islands of the Kingdom of Tonga. The total area of this small state in the southern part of the Pacific Ocean is only 750 kilometers squared. Most of the islands are uninhabited. 70% of the population lives in the capital Nuku'alofa, and it was on that the main impact of the disaster occurred. More than half of the houses and buildings in the main city are destroyed and are not subject to restoration. Many low-lying areas are flooded. There is a shortage of drinking water. On the island of Tonga Tapu, dozens of people turn to the doctors for help. The harvest is completely destroyed. On February 14th, the cyclone increased to a Category 5 and continued to move. As reported by the Meteorological Service, the wind speed reached 205 kilometers per hour, with gusts up to 285. A violent hailstorm hit Cordoba, Argentina on February 8, 2018. The storm started around 4:30 local time with small hailstorms that didn't cause much damage. However, hailstones grew bigger over the next 20 minutes and eventually reached up to 9 inches and more. Eyewitnesses who observed this anomaly noted that the hailstorms fell like heavy stones. Prior to this, no one met here. Local residents assumed that the hail was large, but when it fell, it partially split. Can you imagine such a thing? Such a stone can not only leave a dent on the roof of a car, but also cripple, to say the least. It is noteworthy that this happens more and more often all over the world, and even in countries where this has never happened. For example, on February 24th in the city of Medina, Saudi Arabia, a storm passed through with pouring rain and hailstones the size of a quail egg. Bad weather caused a partial disruption of traffic, and several people were injured. The beginning of February 2018 will be remembered for a long time by the inhabitants of Indonesia. In the capital city of Jakarta and neighboring areas, the government declared the highest level of danger. The reason? The strongest flood in the history of the country. Heavy rains continued to flood the Siliwang River, flowing through the main city. The streets in Jakarta turned into small rivers. There are victims and missing persons. Local authorities announced the evacuation of people from flooded areas. In total, as a result of the disaster, more than 5,000 people were affected. On February 6th, the strongest prolonged downpours in northwest Argentina triggered a powerful flood. More than 100 houses literally washed away by stormy streams. Several large highways have been destroyed. In some places, the water level rose by 1.5 meters per day. People fled. In total, more than 60,000 people were affected by floods and landslides. Hundreds of houses and administrative buildings were left without electricity. A day later, a state of emergency was introduced in Bolivia. At least 50,000 people were left without housing. February 6, 2018 in the city of Mesquite, Texas, people watched hundreds of birds flock to the area. They cut through the air at unpredictable rates. According to witnesses, this happens every year and it is in the beginning of February.
Wow. What's really going on?
After just 3 weeks, the birds behaved strangely in the Mexican town of Chihuahua. They completely lost their landmarks, tossed and fell, crashing against the asphalt. Scientists cannot explain the behavior of the birds in both cases. On February 6th, 10 minutes before midnight, an earthquake measuring 6.4 on the Richter scale occurred in the northeastern part of the Taiwan island near the city of Hualien. Underground shocks led to the destruction of the hotel building as well as 2 bridges. Warning of the tsunami threat was not announced. On an unfortunate coincidence, 2 years ago on the same day on February 6, 2016, in the city of Kaohsiung, Taiwan, there was an earthquake measuring 6.6. After the first series of tremors, the second followed. In 8 seconds, 44 buildings were destroyed. The city had a post-war look. and more than 200 people suffered. Indonesia is located on the border of several tectonic plates, where mutual displacement leads to high seismic and volcanic activity. This ring of fire, as the geologists call, covers the entire Pacific coast in Asia, South America, and Australia. Mount Sinabung, 25 meters high, is located in the northern part of the island. This is one of Indonesia's 120 hotspots, showing signs of activities in our days. For 4 centuries, the volcano Sinabung was considered dead, but in 2010, it forced its way onto the scene and spoke again. In early 2014, the eruption became the cause of large-scale destruction, and once again, the volcano reminded us of itself. On February 19th, a column of ash escaped to a height of 5,000 meters and stretched out to the south. 60 kilometers from Sinabung, the city of Medan is located. Fortunately, this time, there were no human casualties, and this is certainly good, but we still have a question. How, and most importantly why, live next to the volcano? After all, sooner or later, it will explode anyway. What do you think? The torrential rains that took place in the second half of February 2018 in southern Kurdistan and central Iraq trigger a series of floods. Over 200,000 people were affected by the disaster. February 17th and 18th this year in the northeastern part of the country in the city of Sulaymaniyah, 125 millimeters of precipitation fell in a day. On February 18th through the 19th in the northeastern city of Tuz Harmatli, 231 millimeters of precipitation fell. The disaster also affected the territories of Lebanon, Turkey, and Syria. The high probability of giant landslides in the state of Washington led to an emergency evacuation of the local population. The Ministry of Emergency of the region warns that the collapse of the ridge, which is above several dozen houses and a highway, may occur in the very near future. The scale of the disaster frightens many. The area of the potential collapse measures 24 football fields. The volume of the rock that can collapse on the adjacent settlement, by the most conservative estimates, is approaching 3 million cubic meters. The landslide can provoke a massive flood that will flood the nearby Yakima city, inhabited by 94,000 people. But most of all, it is alarming that this landslide is not far from the famous supervolcano in the place of a potential continental fault. And now, looking at all this, you realize that there are far more important things than Bitcoin, or fashionable clothes, or a new iPhone. Likely, now is the time you need to start thinking real hard about your life's priorities and start doing something good or right by the world. And so what do you think about this? We are waiting for your opinion in the comments. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. And now, it's time to recharge your brain. Visit the channel Mind Twister. There you'll find a lot of interesting and unusual facts, lots of positive energy, and tons of useful information. Subscribe right now. We promise it's going to be really exciting.